Fred Guttenberg, whose 14-year-old daughter was killed in a 2018 Parkland mass shooting, called Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, a pathetic liar on CNN on Wednesday for reversing his support for age restrictions on assault style rifle purchases. During a high profile town hall following the Parkland massacre, Rubio said 18-year-olds should not be able to buy a rifle. But during his re election debate on Tuesday evening against his Democratic challenger, Representative Val Demings, Rubio said the proposal doesn't work. That was days after I buried my daughter. Guttenberg, who is now a vocal proponent of gun control measures, said of Rubio's endorsement at the 2018 CNN town hall. I was just a dad who wanted to believe him, Guttenberg continued to host Aaron Burnett. I didn't know enough about the issue back then and just how badly he had failed in the years prior. We all know how he's failed since. He's a liar. He's just a pathetic liar. At Tuesday evening's debate, Rubio rejected the proposal to implement age restrictions on assault style rifles, pointing to, as one example, a recent shooting in North Carolina where the suspect is a 15-year-old boy. Let me tell you why that law doesn't work and why that proposal doesn't work, Rubio said. We had a shooter last Thursday, tragic, in North Carolina. He was 15. Where did he get the gun? He didn't get it from a gun show. He certainly didn't buy it. Investigators have not yet disclosed how the boy got the gun he is accused of using to shoot five people, including his 16-year-old brother. Guttenberg laid into the Florida Republican on CNN, saying he met with Rubio regularly for a year after Guttenberg's daughter, Jamie Guttenberg, was killed in the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I stopped after a year because I started feeling he's like a dog chasing his tail, running in circles, going nowhere, Guttenberg told the network. And I got tired of being run around by him like that. He's useless. He isn't accomplishing anything, and he lies about it. When pressed on his reversal, Rubio at the debate made clear he now wholly rejects those age restrictions. Denying the right to buy is not going to keep them from doing. Here's the fundamental issue, Rubio added. The fundamental issue is why are these kids, why are these people going out there and massacring people? Because a lot of people own AR 15s and they don't kill everyone. A majority don't. Rubio said at the Tuesday debate that he would support some red flag laws which create processes for a judge to order the seizure of a person's firearm if they present a danger to themselves or others. But the Florida Republican rejected the bipartisan gun safety package passed over the summer, calling its red flag provisions crazy and saying he would only support such a measure if just law enforcement were permitted to petition the court. The federal package allocates 750 million dollars in part to support state-level red flag programs, although some states allow groups other than law enforcement to petition a judge. As far as I know, he doesn't even explain why he's against um, other groups petitioning these things. It's weird. So before we get into the part with Guttenberg, I want to just kind of go over Rubio's statements and position because it's always interesting to lay out why these people are full of a certain excrement. So when he says denying the right to buy it is not going to keep them from doing, I've always made this comparison. There are laws that people break all the time. There are people that jaywalk, there are people that drink while driving. But this stuff, these activities, these actions that are illegal remain illegal. Like you don't not pass a law because people who break the law are going to break that law. It's this really weird disconnect they have. It's like we should not make it illegal to rob banks because people are going to rob them anyways. You put these laws on the books to show that you actually have penalties for doing this garbage that are meant to discourage them from doing it. Um, but when he says the fundamental issue is why are these kids, why are these people going out there and massacring people? So he mentions that a majority that have AR-15s, which most people who have weapons don't are not insane, but this is a common trope with conservatives where they try to shift it to being a mental health thing, and then you don't see any proposals by Rubio as to give people counseling or make it more available for an individual to discuss things that, let's say, bother them or affect them, to effectively make it easier for someone who has the mental issues needed to be willing to go forth with one of these massacres to receive some type of help or counsel, because he doesn't care. It's another gimmick to pretty much keep on getting away with not doing anything about this. Which is why Guttenberg said he stopped after a year, because he started feeling like he's a dog chasing his tail, running in circles, going nowhere, referring to Rubio. So when we get to the part where he says earlier in this article that law doesn't work, and he mentions that this boy was 15, again, it's like, it's illegal for someone to drink under the age of 21, and you have children or teenagers that still drink, even though it's illegal for them to do that, but it still remains something that is illegal. And we've already had this discussion before. When state laws really killed any real measure you can get for gun control. If we pass something here in California, somebody can just drive to Nevada or Arizona and curtail our laws by going to a place that doesn't have the same restrictions. That it's one of those things where it's really hard to effectively do things to it, because as a country we keep getting in our own way. But I really emphasize empathize rather with Guttenberg, because if you look at everything from his perspective, here's a guy who back in 2018 grieves the loss of his daughter in this senseless act by this complete douchebag, referring to I'm not going to say his name, but the perpetrator. And with Rubio, he sees a politician, and look, most people don't pay attention to this stuff, so he wants to believe a figure of authority who has some powers, one of the most powerful people in the U.S., as a U.S. senator, the upper chamber of Congress, is going to be sympathetic to him and actually do something that shows that his child did not die in vain, that there is some type of thing or consequence that is going to come out of her passing that will help people and prevent this from happening to others. And he, in good conscience, meets with Rubio over and over again, month after month. And it starts to dawn on him as he becomes more in tune with Rubio and pretty much every other Republican, bar a couple of them on this issue, that he's getting a bunch of lip service. Oh, thoughts and prayers. I feel so bad that your child was murdered. That's why we're not going to do anything about this, and give you all of these platitudes about how this law that we haven't even tried wouldn't work. And he says, this is insane, which is why I can completely understand where he says not only he's a pathetic liar, he's useless. He isn't accomplishing anything, and he lies about it, because this isn't someone who tells him when they first meet, "Hey, look, I'm not going to do anything relating to actually passing gun laws because I believe they don't change or stop these issues from happening." Now, of course, I think he won't do it because he's brought up by the NRA, but at the very least, that would be an honest stance that shows his lack of sympathy for this man. Instead, he goes, "Oh, I really am sorry for what's happened to your child, and maybe we can discuss something." And he's absolutely correct for referring to Guttenberg that Rubio has accomplished nothing, and lies about it. And you can take the period of the last 4 years, ever since that shooting happened, that robbed him of his child, and you would see no difference in any sense of progression on this topic. And in fact, you've actually seen Rubio follow the. It's kind of funny, back in 2012, he was a rumored vice presidential candidate for Romney, and people used to call Romney a flip flopper. That's exactly what Rubio has done on this issue. The article mentions where he changed his position. It's really sad that, because for the most part, I'm a person who's not affected by this stuff, at least in the sense that, like, I can have empathy, but it's never been something that has really messed with me in a personal way for the most part. This is a man who lost his child, and he kept having these meetings with a U.S. senator, one of the most powerful people in his country. And not only does this senator pretend to care, um, but basically make him cynical with the whole political process. And it's like rubbing salt in the wound. Like, it's not enough to have your child get murdered by this insane person with a weapon that's from their school. You also have to have politicians, grown men in positions of power, pretend that there's nothing that can be done. with regard to actually passing any laws that affect people's uses of weapons. And not even just with outright telling you that, but lying and pretending that they're going to do something and nothing has happened. They even had a red flag law, which is very scaled down compared to some of the other things people want, and he still wouldn't vote for it. So I agree with Guttenberg. Rubio's good on some environment. Excuse me, not the environment. That was a Freudian slip. He's good on some foreign policy issues, but outside of that, the only caveat I say is that he's probably one of the Republicans that's more likely to not be insane on immigration. But really, if he loses to Demings, I won't miss him because he just every time he gets a chance to do something that has just takes just a little bit of courage, never. And I'm sorry that this man had to have his time wasted after what he had already been through.